I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 354. Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world. How are you today? Let me tell you about myself. Let me tell you how I am. You may even hear it in my voice. I am recovering from congestion in my sinuses. And it's been a really interesting week. And at first I was thinking, well, maybe I should just skip this week because, I've been kind of sick and maybe I shouldn't do it. And then I said to myself, and this is how we talk to each other, we meaning me and me. I talked to myself, and this is what I thought. It's like I really learned something valuable this week, and I wanted to share it with you before I forgot it. I wrote it down, but I like it when I feel really, really inspired. And I have to tell you, I'm getting better every day, and I feel good enough to talk to you. In fact, I was in the midst of this when I did one of my group classes this week. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard about that I have this amazing group course that I'm doing that I reformulated and have so much interesting stuff in there. And I'm in the middle of doing that right now with my clients. And gosh, on that day, I was saying to myself, can I or can I not? Because this is a lot of the things that I talk to you about is can my body do this? Or is my body saying, you can't do this and you have to take a break? And what I did that day is I ended up canceling out most of my day, but I kept the group class in. And the reason that I did it is because it's the most energizing thing I do. It makes me feel the best when I do it. So I thought it could be a healing experience for me if I do it, if I just lay low for most of the day. And that is what I did. And can I tell you, by the time I was through doing that, I almost felt like I was healed. That's what, when you do something that you really love, it's almost like it's a healing experience. And I'm not saying I'm healed or that I was done after that, but I just felt so much better. Like I took a dose of some kind of medicine. And there's a lot to be said about doing the things that you really love to do. And boy, that is a good test of knowing what really fills you up and what doesn't. And I knew on that day, the one thing that filled me up the most was the thing that I was going to keep on my plate. And you know what? I was right. It really did fill me up. And I've been healing ever since. And one of the things that I learned while being sick that I want to talk about today is the power of your appetite. Because a lot of people who have been dealing with the scale, the number, their weight, their relationship with foods, sometimes start to almost wish that they didn't have a physical appetite. And they make jokes about their appetites, about how much they think they could eat. And I've done the same thing. And I've even done one of the things that I've done that I've heard many people do is that when they are sick and they've lost weight, they'll say, well, the best thing that happened from me is I lost weight. And that's what I want to talk about here today is the power of an appetite and the blessing of an appetite. Because everything that I talk to you about is always about your physical and spiritual and mental connection, mind body connection. And I always speak to you about the main thing is that you want to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full and be able to understand your own gas gauge of your own belly of what a -2 is like and what a +2 is like, what it's like to eat when you're hungry at a -2, and to stop when you're full at a +2, being that you have a range from a -10 of starving to a +10 of full. And I speak about this on many podcasts. And listen, some of you may be new and have never heard this. So if you haven't, just know that I'm talking about that there is a physical hunger scale within you. And your body knows when to turn it on to tell you, hey, feed me. And your body knows when to turn it off. Hey, stop, I'm full. And those numbers can range. Like you can be hungry at a -2, which is what I'm speaking of, or you can wait a long time and be hungry at a -8. Or you can be full at a +2, which is the lightness, the slight satisfaction of feeling full, knowing that you have enough in your belly, light enough to do anything that you want to do, but knowing that you could eat more, but you don't need it. Or you could be a +6 or a +7. You could call that full or a +9. And what I teach, and for those of you, if you're just listening to this and you haven't heard what I'm talking about right now, please go back and start with my first podcast where I explain these tools thoroughly because it hasn't changed. But here's what I want to talk to you about today is that if you're privileged enough and blessed enough to number one, have an appetite, you should consider that the blessing of the day. One thing, and I was a physician, so I know one thing I would always ask my patients is how's your appetite, which would help me determine how sick they are. And when I go and see my own physician, one of the first things he always asks me is, how is your appetite? So, an appetite is probably one of the first signs of good health. And every single client that I speak with, that's one of the things they want the most is to have good health. And one of the things that I don't talk about enough is that if you come to me because you want to take weight off or because you don't have a good relationship with food, you don't know how to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, but you know you have an appetite, that is the first step. And you are so blessed to have it. And you probably don't even think about it. So, one of the things that I'm really recommending for this week is that when you feel your physical hunger and it's time to eat, say a little prayer of appreciation. I don't know who you say it to, but whoever you say it and be appreciative that you have it. And the reason I'm talking about all of this is because when I was sick, one of the things I did not have was my appetite. And you know what? I knew I was pretty sick because I didn't have an appetite. And the beauty of the body is that when you don't have an appetite, it's usually because your body is very busy doing other things of physical healing for you. And food is not the first thing on its list when it comes to healing. Like sometimes eating gets in the way of healing. So I think our bodies are so wise in many times knowing that. But as I was starting to heal and as I'm healing, one of the things that I'm noticing is how I'm starting to get hungry again and how good it feels and how blessed I feel, even more so because I know that I'm healing. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I think about how so many women say the exact opposite about their appetites, that they don't feel blessed, that they wish they didn't have it. And so, what I want to do is to spin it a little bit for you to think about is that when you feel hungry, you say thank you. When you start understanding your numbers, your physical hunger scale numbers, that's a connection. And when you start feeling your physical hunger fullness and you start putting numbers on it, that's a connection. That's the beginning of eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. And that's the physical hunger scale. Now, if there's something that you want to change, that is not what you want to change. You want for the rest of your life, if you're fortunate enough, in order to have good health, you must have a good appetite. They go together. So you want that and you want to appreciate that. And the thing that I talk about the most in my process and in my program and in my individual coaching and in my group coaching is this idea of emotional hunger. Because here's the thing, if there's a very big difference between physical hunger, which is your appetite. Physically, your body is telling you it's time to eat and physically telling you when it's time to stop. But there is the emotional component that I talk about a lot, and I teach it within my process of Thinner Peace is how to understand that emotional component. Because what most people don't like is they don't like their emotional hunger. That's what they really want to get rid of, not their physical appetite. And I want you to think about that. I want you, when you feel this physical appetite of yours, to be grateful every single time you feel it and to be able to start differentiating the physical hunger of wanting to eat because your body is saying, feed me, your belly is speaking to your brain. And when your emotions are speaking to your brain and saying, feed me, but it's not a physical component, it's emotional. And that is very, very different. And even when I was sick, it was very interesting sometimes because I wasn't doing very much and I was laying around a lot. That sometimes my brain would come up with the idea of what could I eat? Now, grant you, I have no physical hunger. But my little brain was still ticking away with, well, couldn't we find something to eat? Something to do? You see, even when you're sick, you will be able to see it and you may even be able to see it more clearly. Because that's what this week did for me is it showed me and reminded me even more so bless this physical appetite and understand this emotional appetite. Bless this physical hunger and understand this emotional hunger. Because emotional hunger is something that is entrained in your brain, and your brain is taught to signal you for food when there are emotions that are uncomfortable. You have somehow, somewhere had it trained. Please don't take it that you've done anything wrong. It's just that we live in a way where there's a lot of food available and we don't live in a society all the time that teaches us how to handle our emotions and express them. So, wherever you are in this journey right now, what I want you to really think about for this week is that there's nothing wrong with having physical hunger. And there's nothing wrong with you for having it. In fact, it's probably one of the best things you have going for you if you have a physical appetite that turns on and turns off at certain parts of the day as you eat and your body digests. And if you're feeling that on a regular basis, please take a moment and say thank you to whoever you say thank you to, because it is a blessing that you should never forget. And I think what most people end up doing is instead of feeling blessed by it, they hate it and they want to get rid of it. And yet, why would you want to do that when it's one of the best signs of good health? So for this week, I want you to really think about that. Instead of getting upset with yourself, I want you just to notice, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. Amazing. My body is working perfectly today. I'm hungry. And then start thinking about how hungry are you using the physical hunger scale. And if you don't have my companion book, please, I offer it for free. It's got a lot of my teachings in it that I use in my podcast. It's being updated as we speak, and it shows you the physical hunger scale and the emotional hunger scale. And it will start you on your journey of understanding what these are. And if you've been working with me, listening to me for a long time, if you've worked with me in the past, this is something I do not want you to forget or in any way feel bad about when it comes to your appetite. Your physical appetite is the best sign that you have of health. You will never go anywhere when you're going to a physician where they won't ask you about your appetite when they're looking at your health. And so it's always a way, yes, I'm very healthy because I have an appetite. It's a very, very good thing. But if you're eating and it's not physical hunger, which means it's not a physical appetite, then we're talking about an emotional appetite. And that is not what this is. But that is exactly how I teach and how I teach you how to connect to that and how to deal with the emotional appetite. And boy, when you have your physical appetite together and you appreciate it and you understand it and you learn to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, and you understand the emotional appetite and you learn to deal with the emotions and not fill them with food, then, sweetheart, not only will you be a happier human being, but you will also be thin and fit and feel good in your own body. So, if y'all like what I'm saying, you always can find out further how to work with me by going to drdebbutler.com/work with me. And you can set up a mini session where I will explain to you the process that I use and if I think you would be a good fit for what I teach. Because if I think I can teach you this, it can change everything for you. And if you're not interested in working with me personally, then please listen to what I just said just now and understand the difference between your physical appetite and your emotional appetite, and never again say anything negative about your appetite. Celebrate your appetite. It is a celebration of your health. The older you get, the better your appetite, the healthier you are. So before I leave, you know I can't leave without saying this, and it's never been more true in what I'm talking about right now, that no matter where you go or who you're with or what you're doing, please, 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 all my dear friends all over the world, be very, very kind to yourself, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change, and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change, CHANGE.